Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're jumping right into something absolutely wild. We are looking at crystallizing consciousness, decoding the Metatron sphere. Now, we're not just looking at some pretty digital sacred geometry here. Nope, we are actually unpacking a geodesic blueprint of your own potential consciousness. It's literally a visual map showing how raw, infinite energy transforms into grounded, usable human potential. If you've ever felt like your energy is just completely scattered, or your visions just kind of refuse to land in the real world, well, the wisdom encoded in this geometry is exactly what you've been looking for.
I really want you to start by asking yourself this core question. What happens when awareness stops drifting and actually decides to become structure? It's such a powerful thought, right? Because right now, let's be honest, a lot of us are living like these scattered golden particles. We're luminous, sure. We are full of potential, absolutely. But we're just sort of drifting without a surface, without a solid foundation that actually lets our light land and become something real. So our whole journey today is about that exact dramatic shift, that precise moment when scattered energy finally decides, okay, I'm going to cohere and become a highly organized, structured consciousness.
Okay, let's dive straight into this geodesic blueprint of potential consciousness. Just take a second to really conceptualize the phenomenal contrast happening here. You've got this deep space navy and crystalline blue in the background, making this incredibly vast, almost cold void, right? And then, cutting right through it, is this blindingly bright, prismatic white-silver light shaft, the axis mundi, the central pillar. Surrounding all of that is this super warm gold-bronze particulate cloud. It really looks like this explosive fluid dissolution. And right there in the dead center, perfectly holding its form, is this geodesic sphere made up of these interlocking hexagonal and pentagonal facets. It almost feels like it's vibrating, because this isn't just a static object. It's actually a representation of the human psyche at the exact moment. It integrates all of its opposites into one totally unified mandala. Now, let's ground all of that visual awe into some actual structured data. Every single element here corresponds to some very specific energetic and alchemical parameters. For starters, the primary frequency vibrating through this whole geometry is exactly 963 Hz. That's known as the crown or source frequency, which is specifically designed to activate divine reconnection at the Sahasrara. Then, if we look at it alchemically, this maps to a very specific stage. We are moving from the whitening and purification stage, which is represented by that silver pillar, the albedo, straight into the solar illumination stage, or citronetus, which is that orbiting gold ring. So you're looking at a literal blueprint of energetic purification that leads right into radiant activation. You might have caught that the primary messenger listed just a second ago was Metatron Indra Thoth. So what exactly is that? Well, this is basically a trifold intelligence of cosmic record keeping. Think of Metatron, whose body is literally made of geometry, then add Indra with his infinite cosmic net, and finally Thoth, the ultimate scribe. It sounds kind of like the ultimate cosmic boardroom, doesn't it? But really, it represents the Jungian self-archetype right at the very moment of individuation. It's basically the voice of the geometry saying, hey, I am what happens when awareness decides to be something, rather than being everywhere at once. It completely transforms the chaotic shock of creation into this beautifully coherent pattern. So the crucial point is really captured perfectly right here. Structure is not imprisonment. It is the capacity to receive infinite light without being destroyed by it. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. Because so often, we resist structure. We think it means giving up our freedom, being boxed in. But this concept teaches us the exact opposite. The hexagonal surface of that sphere, it's not a cage at all. It is a highly, highly advanced lens system. Every single facet acts almost like a compound eye, letting you see in every direction simultaneously, but without ever losing your central orientation. Structure is literally what allows you to handle massive amounts of energy. Now, what's really fascinating about this dynamic is exactly how the sphere functions energetically. Because the sphere itself isn't actually generating that massive pillar of light, it's acting as a transducer. The infinite light passes through the center, and the structure scales that completely overwhelming cosmic energy down into something the human nervous system can actually handle. And think about that swirling toroidal ring of golden dust orbiting the sphere. Those are your old wounds, your old self-concepts, those calcified identities that have finally been alchemically loosened up. And the instruction here is so profound. Don't grab them. Just let them orbit. Let them dissolve while your central sphere holds its perfect form. But we aren't just leaving you with theory today. There is a direct activation sequence you can use to actually experience this. Let's enthusiastically walk through how to align this internally. Step 1, orient. You want to stand or sit to locate your physical verticality, finding your spine as that central axis. Step 2, ignite the pillar. You do this by inhaling this silver white light down through the central column, bringing it right through your crown. Step 3, and this is absolutely key, allow the orbit. Sense that toroidal field, that golden cloud of all your old stories circling you, and just let them be without grabbing onto them. Finally, step 4, activate the surface. Just do a quick body scan, and wherever you feel resistance, just mentally tell yourself, I allow this to become structure, letting that natural crystallization happen. Let's move along and see how this internal alignment actually builds into a full external practice. Once you're holding that structure, you initiate what's called the prismatic breath. Basically, you inhale that intense white light, and as you hold it, you allow it to refract inside you into all its chakric component colors. So you exhale violet from the crown, blue from the throat, red from the root, and so on. Next, you broadcast. You form a really clear intention, not necessarily a specific outcome, but a quality of being, and you release it like a tiny droplet right into the field. And finally, you absolutely have to ground. You need to physically feel that rainbow energy down in your lower register just to confirm that this incredible transmission has actually traveled all the way down to the root. Okay, we need to take a pretty serious turn for a minute here, because there's a really deep warning embedded in this geometry. It's called the shadow warning, beware the luminous cage. There's actually a profound danger in doing this work. It is so easy to become completely intoxicated by the sheer elegance of this sacred geometry, right? It feels so clean, so precise, so elevated above normal life. But if you aren't careful, that beautiful hexagonal surface completely stops being a lens to view the world, and it hardens into a fortress. It just becomes a tool for intellectual overcrystallization. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of the whole process. On one hand, we have the luminous cage. This is when you use spiritual bypassing and intellectual overcrystallization to just build a fortress against vulnerability. The shadow impulse here is to stay perfectly pristine and totally untouchable inside your perfect little sphere. But on the exact opposite side is what that cage is so desperately trying to avoid: messy human love. Real human intimacy isn't geometric. It is direct, it's unmediated, it requires deeply embodied vulnerability, and frankly, it is full of totally unreasonable demands from finite people. The biggest taboo of this whole practice is using beautiful geometric activations as an excuse to avoid honest relationships, or as a way to skip doing your real, messy psychological shadow work. Because this is such incredibly high-frequency work, we have some strict, actionable safety takeaways to really ground this mysticism into a physical protocol. First up, timing. You want to engage with this at dawn or twilight. Do not do this during midday solar energy. It's way too outward and violently clashes with this inward crystallization. Second is posture. You absolutely must maintain a self-supporting spine to host the central pillar. A slouching spine just won't work. Third, sound. Use a 963 Hz drone in the background or sustain the vowel sound to get that resonance going. And finally, integration. Drink lots of water and give yourself a good 24 to 72 hours to process. And please, absolutely do not attempt this protocol if you're experiencing acute grief, because it can seriously amplify those unanchored feelings. Which brings us to our final and honestly most provocative thought. Are you ready to open one of your hexagons to the world? The absolute most advanced instruction hidden in this magnificent digital geometry isn't actually about building the perfect structure. It's about knowing exactly when to yield. Because eventually the sphere has to allow one of those perfect hexagons to open up. It has to let in something that doesn't arrive as pure light, but arrives as need, as grief, as the messy reality of the physical world. Geometry is powerful for sure, but geometry alone is not enough. The structure exists so that you are strong enough to let the world inside. So I leave you with this. Are you ready to stop drifting, build your structure, and open one of your hexagons to the world? Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer. Catch you next time.